Center. Good morning on this Friday morning, gateway to the Labor Day weekend. Coming up later on, 10 o'clock, open phones for that hour. At 11 o'clock, we'll learn about the downtown restaurant investments. But for this hour, our good friend and the author of the book Maximize Your Medicare, now in its umpteenth edition, is with us this morning. And we say good morning to J.O.
Good morning, Art. I, too, have lost count.
I think it was 11 or something like last time.
I think that's right.
Last time I looked.
I just work.
Yeah, you just revise it every year or whatever. All right, so we are in a period of what I call the great unknown. We're kind of, caught between a rock and a hard place here with a lot of things. Medicare, the big, beautiful bill, Social Security being taxed, but then there's a concession. There's all kinds of stuff going on. Do you ever remember a time when there's this much upheaval in the financial and medical world?
I saw a quote the other day in the media that this year would be the biggest upheaval in a decade, and I would agree with that, Art. So it's been 10 years or so since pretty much since when we first met. We met a little bit longer than that.
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely. The number of moving parts this particular year is going to be enormous, with inflation unabated, as well as probably from our information that we are getting from my various websites and links and appearances, an employment issue, which I would say, the phrase white-collar recession and delaying retirement, the entire financial landscape, yes.
So let's strip these down to some parts.
Sure.
We'll start with Medicare, and just for the audience's knowledge, certain things you can't talk about yet relative to Medicare because you don't know, right? Prices, for example.
We don't have prices yet. The time that the first day that I can comment officially is October 1. That time, I will know the standalone prescription plans, which is called Part D, as well as Medicare Advantage. Some people know that as Medicare Part C. We will be able to discuss every last detail of the offerings for 2026, but not until October 1st.
But if you're a guessing man, would you guess them to be different? There will be changes. There's always changes, aren't there?
There are always changes. We have a complicated world, like you pointed out. 11,000 people. It is peak 65. Alliance for Lifetime Income coined this phrase. I'm an education fellow there. Mm-hmm. And what this invariably means is there's pressure on a very, very complicated system.
So let's talk about some of the things that have been in the news. I pulled this down today, as a matter of fact, offline. Says Medicare will require prior approval for certain procedures, a pilot program in 6 states. Now, we start out by saying it's not unusual for prior approval. Insurers do it all the time, right?
That's right. For example,
but Medicare never has.
It has in some very, very limited cases, has required prior approvals. For example, home health care, for example, has required prior approval in very specific instances by original Medicare. Generally speaking, prior authorization is a commonly found practice. If you have an Affordable Care Act plan, if you have an employer plan from your employer through your work, that is very, very common. Your doctor recommends a particular surgical procedure. It will be vetted by the carrier for sure. It is, however, a new pilot program in 6 states, as you accurately stated, where original Medicare, the federal program, is going to be instituting some prior authorizations, yes.
And so we don't get people worried. Those states are, I have it here someplace, I thought, where is it?
Michigan is not one.
Michigan is not one,
That
no.
is right.
It was, I know it's in here, Oklahoma and, let me look before I speak, because otherwise I would be giving bad information. Well, I will find it. But in the meantime, it's a pilot program. How long will they run a pilot before they either yay or nay it in terms of the system?
It's hard to tell. It's going to be at least 1 to 2 years at the minimum. I would expect, however, if I had to look into a crystal ball, which is currently not working, that I would probably say that things like this, in order to streamline, because we have to cut healthcare costs systematically, and as long as it's not creating a loss of coverage overall, that I think that certain solutions need to be sought.
So the states are Arizona, New Jersey, Ohio, Oklahoma, Texas, and Washington State. So that's where they're going to test the program. Why do they roll it out that way? Why don't just test it nationally?
Well, I think that the upheaval, if it doesn't work,
Yeah.
if it doesn't work, there's going to be certain technology that's also going to be involved. Dr. Oz, who is now the head of the CMS, which governs Medicare, has announced that your first world technology, which will include artificial intelligence, will be used in certain instances.
And they mentioned AI in the...
Because it is very worrisome to the patient, and I can understand that. My clients, I can understand that. The flip side is that if you read certain academic research or that type of thing, that you hear of excessive over-testing, over X, whatever that service is. So again, Medicare, the first payer. And yet we have a systematic healthcare cost issue.
Well, I have no problem with Medicare trying to rein in excessive costs, over-testing, and all that. I would have a problem if some bean counter is sitting in an office making a medical decision for me.
And that is certainly part of it, which is that some of the skepticism has to do with that, which is that you can expect Medicare Advantage and individual health insurance carriers as employer plans, whoever that commercial carrier to be using, if they are not on a very widespread basis, artificial intelligence in order to make the determination for an authorization. That said, there's going to be scrutiny, of course, expected, that this is just done for profit maximization purposes only. And that then is going to be,
which is always
very logical.
It's always been the rap on the commercial world.
Correct. And this is not the only industry where this type of skepticism exists.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's true. That's true. All right, we're going to take a break. We're talking to J.O. Lots of topics to talk about this morning, and we will be back to do that. Let me take a moment to talk about Quick Lane Freeland and McDonald Ford. They're on the same property, the same company, actually. Quick Lane Freeland is where you go for all your routine services for your automobile. Now, they are concerned about your health, and it's been a bad allergy season this year. So they have a product to help you alleviate allergies in your car. It's called FrigiFresh. And here to talk about it is John from Quick Lane.
FrigiFresh. Hi, John.
I'm Charles Payne.
All right, we're back with you here on the Art Lewis Show. In studio with me, J.O., the author of Maximize Your Medicare. He is also a financial planner with more initials after his name than Carter's Little Liver Pills, but that's beside the point.
I have a letter deficit, Art. So I need to add this.
But you are, not to make fun of it, I mean, you're certified in what, a half a dozen things,
I'm a certified financial planner.
Right.
And there are other insurance licenses as well as accreditations, life underwriter, financial consultant. And these things are really about fitting the different aspects of someone's financial life together.
And you mentioned a word earlier, which I respect. That word is fiduciary. And you are a fiduciary. That means client's interest first, right? Basically.
Yes, that's what it means. And this just basically means that putting someone's financial priorities prior to any compensation that I would receive. And for me, I don't overemphasize the fact, because to me, I just shrug my shoulders and say, well, of course. That should be self-evident, to be candid with you. Sometimes it is not. You can read headlines, which is disappointing, of course.
All right, let's get back just for a few minutes here to Medicare. Would you expect that? These are all crystal ball questions. Mm-hmm. There are, I don't know how many different Advantage plans there are out there.
Sure.
They all going to survive?
What I can say is that you can expect fewer options going into next year, which is certain carriers have decided to stop offering plans in certain locations throughout the country.
And I'd have to bet those locations haven't been financially successful for them.
You have seen
it's a guess.
You've seen across the nation at every age division that healthcare utilization has skyrocketed. We're coming out of COVID, and what has happened is, and this has not been specific to a particular location or age division, so it has been across the board, and every health insurance carrier is reporting the exactly same thing.
Which I find interesting, because it was a big push for Healthy America. You know, we're going to reduce our healthcare costs. We're going to get healthier and all of that stuff. And just the opposite's happened. Now, is this one of those leftover headaches from COVID? Or is it something that's a standalone problem?
Well, I think we have a standalone problem. I think that is clear, which is that even in the absence of a pandemic, you still have this issue where the cost of health care services rising higher than the pace of inflation. And in addition to that, an aging population, stresses to other aspects of government programs. You mentioned Social Security. So stresses everywhere as a result of a demographic shift as the population, the average age, the median age continues to increase.
Is it a systemic problem? By that I mean, is the system to be blamed, is the way the system is set up in this country for health care? Or is it just overuse?
I would suggest it's the system. I don't necessarily, because what happens is, and I try to make point of this in my newsletter, which is a Substack, and which is that lots of times the academics, the ivory tower, they like to say compare ourselves to other nations. But the reality is healthcare usage is about the same. The percentage of actual visiting the doctor, asking for healthcare services across the planet is about the same. So the only possible answer then is that the system, the way it's set up from the ground up, is creating this situation. Too complicated, but then to undo it, I think, too problematic, too complicated.
And I have to point out, it seems to me, if it's global, as you suggest, other countries aren't in great shape, and particularly those countries with, universal health care and things like that. You constantly hear they're having problems. Financially, they're in the hole.
My point here, Art, is that people like to look at these other nations and say, let's just be like them.
Yeah, but like them's no good.
The issue is that they are taxed in an entirely different way along the way from the time you start to work.
And they're still in trouble.
Exactly. And then, so if you want to say, okay, we're going to fix the healthcare system, you can't just put a Band-Aid on the specific aspect that you or like or dislike. It's not going to be that simple.
Now you got to tear it down and start with the foundation.
It costs how many hundreds of thousands of dollars to become a physician with no guarantee of success along the way.
Right.
Pharmaceuticals to get a drug approved. Hospital sitting in a rural location. On the list of serious issues is so long that in order to change the systematic healthcare costs and to make it drive it down, that will be a tough pill to swallow, pun intended.
So we shouldn't be surprised if Medicare is looking to find ways to reduce its liability,
I would not be surprised, no.
which means we're going to pay for it. Because where else does it come from? It comes out of our pocket. One way or another, it comes out of our pocket. If it's tax dollars, it came out of our pocket. If we're buying policies off the commercial market, it comes out of our pocket. Either way, it comes out of our pocket.
If anything, I've been surprised, happily surprised, that the cost of Medicare premiums, Part B, as well as the fact that Medicare Advantage plans at $0 for PPO, $0 a month, has been this sustainable over the past years. Let's call it 5 years. That the Medicare supplement, which is otherwise known as Medigap, that market has stayed as stable at those levels.
It costs me a lot of money, but I sleep well at night.
You sleep very well at night, Essard.
That's the thing.
Right.
The other thing I read is that, where did I read that it was, they expect Part B to go up over $200 or something like that. No, you can't talk about it because we don't have the numbers. But this was a speculation that I read in an article.
We do have well-researched, credible estimates about possible increases to Part B. We already have the bids that have been submitted for the standalone prescription plans. We know it to be higher. Now, the government has, in the past, stepped in to help lower those average costs for everyone. You just don't know it as a consumer that this has been going on behind the scenes. So whether or not that happens going into 2026 is still unknown.
There's a lot of unknowns. Even when we know there are unknowns.
That's exactly right, which is why I appreciate our time so much. There are a lot of unknowns, and my ongoing message is to have the knowledge on the things that you can control.
All right, we're going to turn our attention to something else here right after the break. We're talking to J.O. His book is Maximize the Medicare, but he's also a financial planner, and we're going to talk a little bit about the big, beautiful bill and all that good stuff coming up.
It's Soaring Eagle Casinos.
Back with you in the studio with J.O. Maximize Your Medicare is his book. We think it's going into its 12th edition coming up soon. And he's also a financial planner, certified in many areas. Let's turn to that financial planning hat. Let's put that hat on for now.
Okay.
Big, beautiful bill passes. Big it is. Beautiful, not so sure. What do you think?
Well, I think that for people who are receiving Social Security and above the age of 60, that the increased standard deduction of $6,000 is going to be helpful.
Oh, no doubt.
For sure. That's actually, for the average case, likely to be even better than not taxing Social Security. And certain people, not in this local area, but in other areas, they're not taxed on Social Security to start by their state.
By the state.
By their state.
Now, does Michigan tax Social Security? I don't think so.
No, I don't believe so.
I don't believe so.
But other states
do.
Tax.
Some do.
That is correct.
Yeah.
So what we'll have, though, my concern and the issue that I have been using a lot of time over the last month, certainly in many different locations around the country, is to point out that the advanced premium tax credit for the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare, the enhanced version, will end at the end of this calendar year.
Really?
And this particular aspect, for those people, the listening audience who do not know, for a married couple who is not yet eligible for Medicare, that the sticker price for individual health insurance will increase almost certainly, by over $10,000 a year. And so what you will have is a large part of the population who is already buffeted by other retirement worries and inflation, is the idea that one of the largest, most worrisome locations for their cost is about to be increased by that degree.
Yeah, and it seems to me it's different in how they treated, for example, in the alphabet soup of supplement plans in Medicare. They got rid of Plan F. But you were grandfathered in if you had it, and you keep it. That's not happening with this, is it, with the Obama care?
No, not at all, which is people have misunderstood that the lower health insurance premium was a tax credit. I wrote a research note for the Alliance for Lifetime Income where we are talking about these layering, the interactions across different topics that seem very complicated but do need to be considered simultaneously. And the fact that this particular area, enhanced advanced premium tax credit, is set to expire at the end of 2025. Like I said, I'm not a Chicken Little, Art. So when I said $10,000, I'm too conservative by 3 to 4 times in other locations in the country. Literally 30,000 plus would be their sticker price. Now, of course, a couple who is living check to check on early retirement, etc., they are not going to sit there once they learn this back. Or they'll cancel their health insurance, which would be the rational thing, right? Because that now represents groceries.
Yeah.
So as a result...
And we're talking about people under 65.
Correct.
Not eligible for Medicare.
That is right. So those people who have taken early retirement, 63, 64, that are living check to check still, for example, or very modestly to make ends meet, they're the ones the most affected. That is the set of the population that I'm most concerned about around the nation, which is what is using most of my time with the media and other outlets.
It seems to me Medicare on some plane is a huge success. Here's why I say that. I know what I was paying for health insurance
That's right.
before I was 65.
Sure.
And it had huge deductibles. And it didn't cover everything. Then I get Medicare for a small fraction of the cost, and it covers everything. I'm well taken care of. I am spending less on health insurance today than I was when I was 65. Even though my supplement plan goes up every year, but I accept that. But I sleep well because it covers everything. There's very little that it'll turn down.
I tell people that original Medicare is like the chassis to a car. It is a very good chassis. No, I don't
It's
think
solid and it supports the car.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which is that the base skeleton, the base setup of original Medicare for the constituency, for the beneficiary, is very, very good.
The other thing about that analogy, on a car chassis, that's where you hang on the suspensions, the brakes, and all that stuff. You don't have to do that with the Medicare chassis. It's complete.
Yes, to a degree.
To a degree. It's not, there's no utopia.
We do need to point out for newcomers to Medicare, crazy people write 200-page books about it for a decade.
Who would that be?
But that the different parts do not cover everything, which is that original Medicare alone, the federal red, white, and blue card is a chassis. It's an incomplete chassis, meaning that if you have it alone and consider yourself to be insured, I would not
Well, and there's
include that.
deductibles you have to cover and all that stuff.
And very importantly, there's no out-of-pocket maximum. The red, white, and blue card by itself has no out-of-pocket
Right.
maximum limit. So in the very extreme example, and I make it up just for illustrative purposes, if you have $1 billion of doctor's visits bills, you still owe 20% without a cap. And these are the types of features that we try to help people get information on so they don't get the wrong understanding.
Yeah. And many people have the wrong understanding, including
Indeed.
me all the time. So it's why I have you here. We'll take a break and be back with J.O.
Faith and Family Home Health Services is
We're back with you. We're chatting with J.O., who is not only a certified financial planner and a whole bunch of other initials strung after his name. He is the author of the book Maximize Your Medicare, a nationally recognized expert who has appeared on all the major networks and other things all the time, but most notably on the Art Lewis Show.
Most notably.
Because actually, when you think about it, 11 years ago, thereabouts, you were on the show for the first time when you wrote the book, the first book.
That's
first
right.
edition.
That's right. I remember.
Life has changed for you, though, hasn't it?
It has changed, but our message has been the same.
Yeah.
And I've appreciated our times, so many appearances, and have enjoyed each one of them, Art.
So let's talk. You mentioned an organization, the Alliance
For lifetime income.
for Lifetime Income.
That's
What's
right.
it about? First of all, let's start with that. What is that alliance?
The Alliance for Lifetime Income is a nonprofit organization, and I'm one of approximately 25 education fellows. It is there to educate both at the advisory world as well as consumers about the value of guaranteed lifetime income, which can be used to supplement on top of Social Security to reduce the uncertainty during retirement. And there is a lot of stigma and then marketing, and there's also skepticism from every angle. And so since it is a nonprofit organization, it is not beholden to a particular carrier, whoever that carrier is, that we can step back, and the executive director calls it be pragademic about it, right? Practical and academic, kind of that combination, to explain the value of these guaranteed lifetime income, which can be called annuity. But then again, when you label something with a name, the stigma attached that comes flying.
Well, it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong about this, the stigma around annuities to some degree came because of the way it was marketed for a long time.
It's always a messaging matter, Art. On my website, my personal website, which is jo.com,
JAEOH, just so everybody knows.
That's right, .com. I said, I have a section called What I Think About My Work. And one of those things is money has a naming problem, which is that what ends up happening is the focus is on understanding based off a particular set of naming jargon. And like you pointed out, the way it gets marketed. I would rather frame it as, okay, what function are we trying to accomplish here? What objective are we trying to accomplish? From there, once that is well defined, whoever you are, whether or not you have $100,000, whether you have $10 million, once you have this function defined, don't worry about it. The carriers will figure it out. They will create the solution, whatever its label is. And the Alliance for Lifetime Income has done a very nice job of trying to reframe the conversation away from stigma and back to the function of guaranteed lifetime income, used to supplement on top of solid Social Security decision making.
And that then points out the need to have this planning before you get to Social Security. so you know what to do when you get to Social Security.
Absolutely, Art, because I think that what happens